Right now on Morning News Now, new questions about President Trump's past friendship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein after House Democrats released documents subpoenaed from the Epstein estate, including a lewd drawing and birthday message that reads in part, "May every day be another wonderful secret," allegedly signed by the president back in 2003. Now, the White House denying President Trump wrote the note. We'll bring you the latest. Also this morning, new developments in the president's immigration crackdown as ICE operations escalate across Chicago.
And you try and reason with people like in Chicago with the governor and the mayor. You try and reason with them, and it's like you're talking to a wall.
Operation Midway Blitz is not public safety. It's a declaration of war on Mexicans and Latinos in Chicago.
Meanwhile, the Trump administration celebrating a legal victory after the Supreme Court lifts limits on immigration stops in Los Angeles. More on the ruling, the reaction, and what it all means. Plus, out of pocket, confusion over who is covered for the latest COVID vaccine as more patients report paying hundreds of dollars for the shot. And long time no talk. Have you ever thought about reaching out to an old friend after losing touch? Well, researchers say you should. We'll unpack the benefits of rekindling friendships. Good morning, I'm Emily Ikeda in for Joe and Savannah. We begin this Tuesday morning with the release of a trove of documents related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The Republican-led House Oversight Committee released all of the documents it received from Epstein's estate. This just hours after Democrats on the committee posted this lewd note President Trump is alleged to have sent to Epstein as part of a book compiled for Epstein's 50th birthday more than 2 decades ago. The Wall Street Journal was the first to report the existence of the card back in July, though the president has denied having anything to do with the card and has sued the Journal, its publisher, and 2 reporters. NBC News has not independently verified the Wall Street Journal's reporting. In response to the so-called birthday book, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says the president did not draw the picture and did not sign it. We'll have more reaction from the White House in a moment when we check in with NBC's Monica Alba. But let's begin with NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Melanie Zanona with the latest. Mel, good morning. So the so-called birthday book was the most revealing of records made public by the House Oversight Committee, which had subpoenaed Jeffrey Epstein's estate last month. So walk us through what's in these documents and what we're learning now.
Yeah, good morning. It was a really big development for this congressional investigation into the Epstein case. In addition to the birthday book, the House Oversight Committee says it received a trove of documents from the Epstein estate, including the last will and testament from Epstein before he died by suicide in jail in 2019, the non-prosecution agreement involving Epstein and the attorney's office in the Southern District of Florida, entries from Epstein's contact book, his address book, and finally, information about his known bank accounts. What was not included, though, in this trove of documents was any so-called client list. That is something that an attorney for the estate says they are not aware that exists, and so they didn't turn that over. But they are prepared to turn over additional documents on a rolling basis. So this could really just be the first batch. And they've also offered the opportunity for staff members, both Republican and Democrat on the committee, to come to New York later this week to view all of these documents in their original unredacted form. So again, this is a really big development for the committee. The 2 pieces being probably the most revelatory, at least from a political perspective, are those 2 entries that you mentioned in that birthday book that was compiled by Ghislaine Maxwell that were purportedly written by Trump. Now, the White House has denied that that's actually Trump's signature and that he had anything to do with it. But Democrats, of course, really seizing on this to question the relationship between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein.
So I want to get into some of the reaction to all of this. House Oversight Committee Chairman, Republican Congressman James Comer says Democrats were, quote, cherry-picking documents and politicizing information received from the Epstein estate. What's been some of the response from fellow Republicans on the Hill, Mel?
Well, I would say the responses have fallen into 2 camps from Republicans. Either A, Republicans said they have not seen it. This was yesterday when we were chasing people in the hallways asking them. Or B, they really mimicked the White House line, which is that this is not Trump's signature. This is forged. This is all fake news. There was at least one Republican, though. His name is Don Bacon. He's a moderate. He's retiring. He at least admitted to me that it's probably unlikely that someone forged Trump's signature, but he wouldn't even fully go there to say that this is forged. I want you to take a listen to some of the other reactions we heard yesterday.
Trump's letter to Epstein, what's your reaction to that?
I think it's a distraction.
What do you mean? I mean, it doesn't prove anything. Having a birthday card from Trump doesn't help the survivors and the victims. It doesn't name an additional new person who could be indicted. I think it's just a distraction.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, anybody can do a signature. We've seen the auto pen's been used quite a bit with the Biden administration. So I've never known Trump to be much of an artist either. So I'd kind of draw that into question.
And that first Republican that we heard from, that was Thomas Massie. He's actually leading a bipartisan effort to force a floor vote releasing all of the Epstein files. He is still pushing ahead with that. They need a few more signatures, though, in order to succeed with that effort.
And let's look to last week, because just last week on the steps of the Capitol, Epstein's accusers said there were some people who were close to him who should have known what was going on years ago. Where does this case and the congressional investigation go from here?
So congressional investigators said they really want to follow the money trail. They've already issued a subpoena for some bank records, suspicious activity reports. They said they got some new names and new ideas after their investigation over the last week, hearing from witnesses behind closed doors. And they're going to continue to haul in people for depositions, including Alex Acosta. He was in charge of that non-prosecution agreement that I mentioned. He was also Trump's former labor secretary. So they are going to continue to conduct this investigation behind closed doors, even as Republicans are digging up some potentially embarrassing and harmful information for the president.
Mel, a lot to watch for. Thanks so much. Let's go to NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba now for more on the reaction from the Trump administration. Monica, the White House has been trying to move past the Epstein story for months. They're essentially saying this alleged Trump birthday letter isn't real. So what's in their explanation here?
Yeah, Emily, this is something that they have continued to deny. Initially, they said the letter was non-existent. They said that this was something that they weren't even presented with when the Wall Street Journal published a story earlier this summer. And that is when you had first Karoline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, issuing that denial. And she's issuing a new denial in regard to this, specifically saying that this proves, in her words, in the White House's argument, that the birthday card story is false. She says it's very clear, again, this is the White House argument, that the president did not draw this picture and that he did not sign it. And the White House even released yesterday, Emily, some of the signatures that they say are the current signature of Donald Trump that do not look like the one that is in this image. But when you look at some of the images that have been released of correspondence that Donald Trump signed in the last 20 plus years, there are signatures that appear to be similar to what you see there. Again, that is seemingly his signature, and that is what is being alleged here, and that is what is being reported. But you had Vice President Vance, for his own part, trying to really paint this, in his words, as political, saying that the Democrats, quote, don't care about Jeffrey Epstein, that they are simply focused on this as a distraction. So that has been the argument from the White House that we have heard for some time, that they repeated yesterday. Again, the vice president saying that they believe that the only thing that the Democrats care about is, again, trying to focus on something, in the words of the White House, that paints Donald Trump in a negative picture. But this has been something the White House has had to answer questions for, and they will only have to answer more questions for it when Karoline Leavitt has a press briefing today in the afternoon. Emily.
Take us inside the White House on this. Is there a sense within the White House that this is a problem that won't go away? Are they contemplating changing their strategy at all on this?
Well, for as long as this has been happening, the real crux of this issue has been that some of the calls for more information have come from Republicans, have come from allies, have come from supporters in the president's own MAGA base. So in order to try to answer that, they have said that they would like to have transparency, that they have pushed for more records to be released. But of course, that does beg more questions and for them to have to spend more time on this. But Karoline Leavitt said that the White House, the president in particular, is going to continue to pursue litigation on this. Remember, they sued the Wall Street Journal for defamation. And remember that they had said initially, again, that this is something that simply did not exist, that they didn't believe. The president, for his own part, Emily, had said on the White House South Lawn more recently, maybe somebody wrote this and forged his signature. So he did introduce that kind of potential scenario into the situation. But they will likely be in a defensive posture today, saying, again, they will continue to pursue that legal action against this.
Monica, let's switch gears here for a moment. The president took part in an event at the Museum of the Bible in Washington yesterday to address what he's calling grave threats to religious liberty in schools. How is the administration planning to get involved in this, and is it raising any questions about the separation of church and state?
It is overall, and that is something that normally is questioned when you have something like this being discussed. President Trump announced some new guidance, he said, from the Department of Education that would be forthcoming. It's unclear exactly what it will entail and how it will be implemented, but this is part of the president's long-held belief and stance that he wants to work toward what he calls anti-Christian bias in schools and in the education department overall. So he is saying he's going to try to introduce things to protect prayer, which already is protected in schools, but to go beyond that. And again, we're waiting on the details of exactly how that will work. Emily.
Monica Alba breaking it all down for us. Thanks so much, Monica. Meanwhile, the Trump administration has been handed a victory by the Supreme Court, blocking a federal judge's ruling that restricted federal officers' ability to conduct immigration stops in Los Angeles. As NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez explains, this comes as ICE operations are beginning to ramp up in Chicago.
The Trump administration stepping up its crackdown on illegal immigration in Chicago. Seen here arresting a man from Mexico, ICE says, was wanted for aggravated sexual assault of a child.
You try and reason with people like in Chicago with the governor and the mayor. You try and reason with them, and it's like you're talking to a wall.
Over the weekend, President Trump posting an AI-generated image of himself with the phrase, "Shipocalypse now." The caption, "I love the smell of deportations in the morning." The president saying he is still considering sending the National Guard there to reduce crime.
We'd love to go into Chicago and straighten it out. We're bringing back law and order to our country.
Over the last 2 weekends, there have been 14 homicides and at least 76 people shot in Chicago, with one alderman telling us National Guard troops would free up police.
I absolutely support the Trump administration bringing in more federal resources. Our city needs as much help as we could possibly get.
But Chicago's Democratic mayor is increasingly pushing back, writing the city just experienced record low homicide numbers, making this the safest summer since the 1960s.
Our communities remain united more than ever against the administration's attempt to unleash the military, National Guard, and rogue ICE agents on our city and state.
In a legal victory for the president, a conservative Supreme Court majority loosened restrictions on ICE operations in L.A. But in her dissent, liberal Justice Sonia Sotomayor writing, "We should not have to live in a country where the government can seize anyone who looks Latino, speaks Spanish, and appears to work a low-wage job." The White House insisting it does not target people based on race.
It's a multitude of factors to establish reasonable suspicion. But if an illegal alien has an MS-13 tattoo on his head, that's certainly going to be one of the factors that we consider.
Meanwhile, our NBC News poll shows the president's approval rating at just 43%, 57% disapprove. Gabe Gutierrez, NBC News, the White House.
Gabe, thanks so much. So for more on that decision, let's bring in NBC News senior Supreme Court reporter Lawrence Hurley and NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris to break it all down. Good morning to you both. Lawrence, let's start with you. This was a 6-3 decision split along strictly ideological lines, and it was brief. The ruling did not offer any explanation for how the court reached its decision. However, Justice Brett Kavanaugh issued a separate opinion that appeared to throw doubt on any constitutional violation. So what are the takeaways from this decision? Walk us through it, and how is the Trump administration reacting?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing to recall about this is that this is just another example of the Supreme Court blocking a ruling by a federal judge in this kind of emergency context where the Trump administration immediately appeals up to the Supreme Court and says, this is an emergency. How dare this judge block what ICE is doing in Los Angeles in this case? And the Supreme Court majority, which has 6 conservatives, including 3 Trump appointees, basically ruled in favor of the administration. So that's one thing to consider. The second thing is that the court here is basically allowing, as Justice Sotomayor referenced in her dissent, a kind of a form of racial profiling of people in the Los Angeles area, targeted basically because of where they work, whether they speak English, where they're mingling. As Sotomayor said, she thinks, this is going to lead to a lot of people who are American citizens or permanent residents, as there's been evidence in this case that there is, these people being picked up and detained. So, and of course, the Trump administration is seeing this as a major victory. The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, said so, and she's saying this now allows ICE to go about its operations in the Los Angeles area without being micromanaged by the courts.
So let's bring Misty into this conversation. Lawrence, as you heard, referenced Justice Sotomayor's strong dissent, which said in part that she would not, quote, stand idly by while our constitutional freedoms are lost. Were you surprised by this decision, and how could this impact ICE raids, ICE operations across the country?
Well, certainly the practical effect is that this decision is going to be used to conduct these similar types of raids using the same standards across the country, even though the decision isn't really clear about the impact on the national footprint because there was no written rationale. There is no decision. However, you know the Trump administration is going to use this to move forward, not just in Los Angeles, but with other places, because keep in mind, this is a for now. This decision is not final. The cases are still going to work their way through the courts. And Justice Sotomayor, her decision and her dissent was really reflective of the plaintiff's arguments that allowing these factors to be taken into account, like race, accents, speaking Spanish, location, that is basically violating the fundamental principles of the Fourth Amendment when it comes to reasonable suspicion, which in the criminal law context would preclude taking those factors into consideration. So this is a very novel issue that's going to be before the court on those Fourth Amendment principles and still needs that finality. So I imagine the Trump administration will take advantage of this time period at this point.
So let's talk about a separate ruling from yesterday where the Supreme Court allowed President Trump to fire, for now, a member of the Federal Trade Commission, despite what's typically protected by federal protections for these independent agencies. So what are you making of this, and how does former court decisions come into play here?
So there's an FTC law. It's actually on point, and he's done this with other independent agencies as well. We're looking to terminate civil service employees, but with the FTC, the requirement is that a termination by the president can only be for cause. And here he's looking to remove this particular commissioner without cause, which normally would require a showing of malfeasance or negligence. So now it is really a battle of the limits of executive power. There's a Supreme Court decision called Humphrey's Executor. It's from 1935, and that is what upheld the FTC law and this requirement. It's going against what the president and his administration is arguing. Their Second Amendment, Article 2 of the Constitution, Article 2 of the Constitution, their power to run the executive branch. And the argument is that over the past, decades, that the FTC has actually taken on more of an executive type role, so the president should have control. Another issue for the Supreme Court to have finality on that one as well.
Yeah, we know this is part of a broader conversation looking at other independent agencies as well. Lawrence, before you go, since President Trump began his second term, the administration has won 18 of its 25 appeals made to the Supreme Court emergency docket. Put that number into perspective for us. Is that unusual?
Well, the short answer is yes, because it's completely unprecedented to have this number of cases coming up to the court so quickly on an emergency basis. Just as an comparison, the Biden administration had 19 requests that it made to the Supreme Court on an emergency basis in 4 years. So the Trump administration has already surpassed that. And before that, the Obama administration, the Bush administration just had a tiny number of these cases coming up to the court. This has really accelerated, and it's kind of been turbocharged by the Trump administration, where almost any ruling from a district court judge that they don't like, they consider that to be an emergency. And when they say it's an emergency, it seems like the Supreme Court acts like it's an emergency and generally rules in their favor.
Misty and Lawrence, thanks so much for weighing in on this conversation. President Trump is facing a major legal loss this morning after a federal appeals court upheld the $83 million judgment against him in the E. Jean Carroll defamation case. His legal team argued that Mr. Trump was protected by presidential immunity. A panel of judges rejected that argument. Back in January of 2024, the president was found liable of defaming the writer's reputation repeatedly during his first term in office and the years that followed, including during the trial. A representative for Trump did not immediately respond to NBC News' request for comment. In a statement, Carroll's attorney said that they look forward to the end of this legal process so justice can finally be done. The president was also found liable in a separate civil suit in May 2023 for sexually abusing Carroll and defaming her. He denied all wrongdoing and challenged that decision. An appeals court affirmed that $5 million verdict last year. Now Trump is appealing to the Supreme Court. This morning, there's growing confusion over who has access to the latest COVID shots and who's going to pay for it. Some say they want the COVID vaccine but are struggling to get it. NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson spoke to one woman on Medicare who said she had to pay $200 for what she expected to be free.
74-year-old Allison Engel is diligent about keeping up with her COVID vaccinations. Now she's frustrated.
It is just a series of obstacles being put in front of me and other people to try to get the new COVID vaccine.
Engel has Medicare, and when she went to get a COVID shot a few weeks ago, she expected it to be free, but instead...
What exactly did they say to you when they handed you this?
They said it wasn't approved by Medicare.
So this is the pharmacy where Allison received that vaccine after paying out of pocket, a place that would normally allow anyone to get the shot. Now the rules for eligibility are strict, blocking anyone below 65 or without an underlying medical condition. But even then, it's a confusing patchwork.
At a heated Senate hearing last week, Senator Elizabeth Warren grilled HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. over access.
I'm not taking them away from people, Senator.
It takes it away if you can't get it from your pharmacist.
Adding to the confusion, a key CDC panel hasn't signed off on the new vaccine yet. Until they do, CVS says people in 10 states will need prescriptions to get the shot. As for Medicare patients, CVS says some stores are updating their systems and may not be set up yet for the new vaccine.
The more barriers we throw up, the more confusion we introduce in the system, there are going to be more people who are going to end up not getting the vaccine, and then they're going to be at continued risk.
Allison says she hopes Medicare will eventually reimburse her, but she isn't confident.
It really makes me furious because I believe that the decision for Medicare not to immediately reimburse for this is determined by politics, not medicine.
Steve Patterson, NBC News, Pasadena, California.
In California this morning, firefighters are struggling in a long and challenging battle to contain wildfires across the state. Currently, the largest is the Gifford Fire, which has already burned through more than 130,000 acres north of Los Angeles. East of Fresno, the giant sequoia trees that are unique to the area are in extreme danger yet again. The Garnet Fire has been burning in the Sierra National Forest for 2 weeks at this point. As of this morning, that fire has torched nearly 55,000 acres and is only 14% contained. Giant sequoias are the world's largest trees and can live for thousands of years. Since 2020, wildfires have destroyed about a fifth of all of them. Evacuation orders are still in place for tens of thousands of people in the area. And Florida has had a wet start to the week with more heavy rains expected today. Let's get a closer look with your Morning News Now weather. Meteorologist Angie Lassman joins us with more. Angie, say it isn't so. I see all the rain on the map.
Yes, unfortunately, Emily, we need the umbrella if we live in Florida. Sunshine State not living up to its name over the next couple of days. We've got already an active morning. Now, the good news is for most of you on the West Coast, early morning hours, we're seeing most of the activity sitting offshore. But notice East Coast, we're still seeing some of these kind of thunderstorms rolling on in. We've got plenty of heavy showers happening as well. And that's kind of going to set the stage for what we deal with through the rest of the day. So notice this cold front that's kind of slicing through the peninsula. This is going to leave us with the unsettled pattern for today and for tomorrow. Now, today, severe risk is low, but unfortunately, we have that potential to see some really heavy or some really high rainfall rates. And of course, that heavy rain leading us to some localized flooding. So we'll see that happening through the day today. Then that front becomes stationary. So that means that as we get into tomorrow, more of those showers, those thunderstorms will be in the picture. And we could see some gusty winds associated with that as well. I'd say from Daytona to Miami is where we'll see the heaviest of the rain. And you can see as we get through at least Thursday, we're going to pick up multiple inches of rain. So this is why we're concerned about the localized flooding, especially when we have impressive rainfall rates in an hourly period. That's going to be something that, of course, is not hard to flood across portions of South Florida. So we'll likely be watching for that to happen here over the next day or so. Meanwhile, we've got a frost advisory in effect across parts of the Northeast and interior New England. Notice these temperatures this morning, 30s, 40s. Some 50s, but that means extra layer across this region for sure. If you're heading out and about, you'll still see some kind of mild temperatures across that region by later today. But notice how much warmer it is across the middle of the country. We've got places like Albuquerque and Denver near 90 or at 90, 105 for Phoenix. That region ending up above normal for today. West Coast, meanwhile, running below normal. Los Angeles running about 10 degrees below where they should be for this time of year. 78 degrees degrees is what we're ending up with here as we end up into tomorrow. We'll see those mixed temperatures with the warmer air kind of filtering into the Midwest. And then we keep it fairly mild for September as we head into the weekend. 80s on tap for the Mid-Atlantic.
I mean, I heard you say mild. I heard you talk about the rain. But what's sticking out? Frost advisory?
I know, you're not
I'm
ready
still
yet.
hanging on to summer. I love fall.
You and me both. Notice we both are wearing our short sleeves.
Yeah.
I know. We've got a chilly morning for some, but it's it'll be mild by the afternoon. So still be able to peel off some of those layers.
Fall coming in hot. All right, Angie, thanks so much. Much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, no phone zone. More schools working to keep students off their cell phones in the classroom. We'll show you how. But up first, after the break, caught on camera, new video shows the moments leading up to a deadly shooting on a bus in Jerusalem. The latest when we come back. Stay with us. And we're back now with a look at new videos showing the chaotic moments a terror attack unfolded on a crowded street in Jerusalem yesterday. Palestinian gunmen opened fire on people waiting at a bus stop, killing 6 Israelis. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel has the story.
You're watching the exact moment of the attack in Jerusalem. You can hear a few shots, then more, and the crowd start running and screaming. As police say, 2 Palestinian gunmen opened fire on people waiting at a bus stop. 6 Israelis were killed before the gunmen were shot dead by an Israeli soldier and an armed civilian.
This is the bus stop where the attack took place. The entire area has now been sealed off by Israeli soldiers and police. But if you look through here, right at the bus stop itself, you see the white body bags where medical workers are collecting the remains.
Prime Minister Netanyahu visited the scene and said the terror attack strengthened Israel's determination to carry out its war in Gaza to destroy Hamas and free Israeli hostages. And that Israeli airstrikes in Gaza City have already destroyed 50 high-rise buildings in 2 days, saying they issued evacuation orders for the buildings first and claiming they were used by Hamas. Netanyahu told Palestinians to get out of the city now, but many remain, convinced that they'll be killed or made homeless or starve wherever they go. So why bother? 12-year-old Jana Mansour was living in a tent next to one of the high-rises. She was looking for her clothing. She says she used to have beautiful dresses, but that now she feels like walking garbage. Nothing is left in life. We are finished, she says.
Our thanks to Richard Engel for that report. U.S. and European officials met at the Treasury Department last night to discuss ramping up the economic pressure on Russia, including new sanctions and tariffs. This comes after another massive wave of Russian airstrikes in Ukraine. NBC News chief international correspondent Keir Simmons has the latest.
Ukraine reeling from the biggest Russian air bombardment of the war. Strikes across the country. This key government building in Kyiv hit for the first time by a ballistic missile, Ukraine says. Ukraine's prime minister filming inside. You can see the consequences, she tells the camera. And these stunning images. The building, visited by President Trump's envoy just last month, now gaping holes where the munitions struck and parts of a missile strewn around. The deadly message from Moscow delivered not by diplomats, but over 800 drones. Among the dead, a 32-year-old mother and her 2-month-old child. President Trump suggesting he's prepared to slap more sanctions on Russia over its ongoing attacks.
I'm not happy. I'm not happy about the whole situation.
Ukraine's President Zelensky calling the attacks murder, when real diplomacy could have begun long ago. Ukraine targeting Russia with its own drones, but President Putin unwavering, saying he will meet Zelensky, but only in the hero city of Moscow. His audience of Russian officials loudly applauding. Meanwhile, diplomats from here in Europe have traveled to Washington to push for more economic sanctions against Russia.
Keir, thanks. More international news now. In Mexico City, at least 10 people are dead and dozens injured after a freight train slammed into a bus. Matt Bodner joins us now with that and more world news in 60 seconds. Good morning, Matt.
Emily, good morning. 10 people were killed and 61 injured yesterday in that deadly collision between a cargo train and a double-decker passenger bus in central Mexico. This is the latest such incident and also one of the most deadly. Video on social media shows the bus stuck in traffic and moving slowly onto the tracks before it was then hit by the train. There were no visible gates or signals at the crossing. Moving along now to France, lawmakers on Monday voted to oust Prime Minister François Bayrou, leaving France without a government and in a political crisis. Bayrou was booted following his move to push through an unpopular $51 billion austerity plan that involved canceling 2 public holidays and freezing government spending. President Macron will name a new prime minister in the coming days. And we'll wrap up this hour in Australia. The government of New South Wales has announced the creation of a giant new national park for koala bears. Environmental groups warn that they could be extinct in the wild in New South Wales by 2050. The creation of this great koala national park aims to prevent that. Back to you.
Well, it sounds like that's something I have a feeling a lot of people will be fans of and eager to visit. Thanks so much, Matt. Coming up, researchers sounding the alarm on kids' smartphone use and their mental health later in life. What parents should know in our weekly check-in next on Morning News Now. All right, and we're back with our weekly mental health check-in. This week, we're diving into one major study that warns getting a smartphone before age 13 could increase the risk of poor mental health later in life. Plus, a look at how loneliness can drive teens to engage in risky behavior. Joining us now for more on these mental health headlines is licensed marriage and family therapist Dr. George James. Dr. James, thanks so much for joining us. Good morning to you. Let's start with this new study that found that owning a smartphone before the age of 13 is tied to poor mental health in early adulthood. So what conditions were early cell phone use linked to? And I think the question on so many people's minds, are there things parents can try if they have already given their kids smartphones to protect them?
Yeah, good morning, Emily. Yes, the study has found that access to smartphones, which leads to possibly social media, cyberbullying, maybe being more detached, or even some poor family relationships can really decrease the mental health of our young folks over time. And for parents, some of the things they can do if they've already given their child a cell phone is maybe try to limit their access, limit their screen time, maybe have more conversations with them about what you might be concerned about, because we want our young folks to be able to be more engaged and not have the impact, especially the mental health impact of social media.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talk a lot on this segment about loneliness, and our next study shows a powerful way it can impact teens. Researchers found teens are very sensitive to loneliness and are more likely to turn to coping mechanisms. This can mean playing online games, but can be also mean turning to drugs and alcohol. So what is this idea of reward seeking? And going back to that important question of what can parents do?
You know, once again, what we found out is that loneliness impacts all of us, and for our teens even more so. And when they feel lonely, they try to get rid of that feeling. And sometimes that's what we mean by reward-seeking behavior. How can I get rid of this behavior or this feeling by maybe connecting with folks? But it could lead to risky things like drugs and alcohol. So we want to make sure that our young folks have opportunities to connect with other people. Maybe it is the online gaming, but maybe it's other interactions. Maybe it's sports, maybe it's clubs, maybe it's other things that keeps them connected and not feeling lonely, but we want to just check in with them as parents.
And on the topic of connecting with people, if you've ever longed to reconnect with an old friend but deleted the message before hitting send, you're not alone. A new study suggests most people are reluctant to reach out. Dr. James, why is that, and how can people get the courage to reconnect, reach out?
This is actually something I say to the people I work with often. Reach out to your old friends. It is so important to stay connected, and that some folks are reluctant to actually send that first message because they think it might not go well, but actually do it. Press send, no matter if the message is perfect or not, because there's a way that you can reconnect and start with the old friend that's different than a new friend. So it is okay. Reach out, and there's a way that you might not feel lonely. You might be able to catch up and have a good relationship with this old friend if you just reach out.
I think that's a position so many people find themselves in, especially in the age of when we're looking down at our phones all the time. This is a loaded question, but what do you think are some of the factors that are expanding this sense of loneliness?
Yeah, I agree. It is the way that we are focused on ourselves. We are focused on our phones. We're focused on so many other things, and we're not really connecting, or we're not really sharing the things that we feel. So it's so important that we, one, acknowledge that we feel lonely, and two, do something about it. Connect with the old friend, get off maybe the social media, touch base with someone we know, or just say, I'm feeling lonely and I need some help. That way you don't have to stay that way.
Such important reminders, as up to 90% of people report having that they've lost touch with an old friend. Dr. George James, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
And the early arrival of a baby in Utah turned out to be life-saving for her grandfather. What happened inside the hospital room has loved ones calling it nothing short of a miracle. Reporter Andrew Adams for our affiliate station KSL in Salt Lake City has this stunning story.
We can't complain.
In a place where the minutes and seconds always matter.
I wasn't even supposed to have her that early.
Sometimes timing is still impossible to predict. Anchani Simpkins says little Gia came 2 weeks early.
It's okay. It's okay.
A blessing to everyone,
She's our gift. She is just a priceless gift.
including her new grandparents.
We can't wait to watch her just grow up and be a beautiful young lady like her mom.
Valerie Alt says her husband Toby was visiting his first grandchild for the second time on Thursday
Well, it was pretty much a nightmare.
when he suddenly started to stumble.
I think he kind of grabbed right here and he just collapsed.
And we ran to him and he rolled over and he looked gone.
Family members say they started screaming down the halls for help. And within moments, emergency workers at Cache Valley Hospital were there, facing a grave situation.
On our quick exam, we quickly found out that he had no pulse.
After performing CPR and shocking his body with a defibrillator 4 times, the medical team brought Toby back to life. Something they say probably wouldn't have happened outside a hospital.
He wouldn't have made it. The thing that saved him was the defibrillation within minutes of him going down.
For those closest to Toby, the range of emotions was hard to express.
Yeah, it was terrifying.
But they can't help but see Gia's early birth as serendipitous.
It's like she knew that she needed to get out and we needed Grandpa here at the hospital.
It's a miracle. That baby kept my husband and their dad alive. He's here with us today because she was born.
Family members are now grateful to the nurses and doctors.
This team here is incredible. Incredible.
And for the timing that couldn't have been better.
The double blessing. We got our little Gia and we have their dad and my husband here for a long time now. So we're very grateful.
Talk about a whirlwind of emotions there. Our thanks to Andrew Adams for our affiliate KSL for that story. Toby's family, by the way, says he received a pacemaker the next day and has started on the long road to recovery. And coming up, tariffs taking a toll on small businesses across America.
I might be selling a $30 mug, which I might now be selling for $60 just to make up that difference.
When we come back, more on the cost being passed on to customers. Back now with how the Trump administration's tariff policy is impacting the small businesses of America. Owners say tariffs are eating into their bottom lines and they fear it's going to get worse. Reporter Shalima Maharaj from our NBC News affiliate in Denver takes a closer look.
The tariffs have hit us hard.
Tariffs are tough.
It happens.
According to Carla Akpinar.
It happens.
The majority of what she sells is imported.
Not by choice, but that's what's available.
She's the owner of Silk Road, a shop in East Washington Park.
We get invoices, and we have the shipping charge on the bottom for whatever, $200. And then they have a surcharge underneath that for tariff, which is $400 or $500.
A cost she's trying not to pass on to her customers.
We'll just make less money to pay off our debt this Christmas.
She isn't the only one feeling the pain. A report from the Colorado Office of State Planning says the tariff rate has increased by 7-fold.
Some of my stuff has doubled and tripled in cost.
Shelby Van Buskirk owns Pantless Potter, based in Missouri. She's in town for a summer street market.
I might be selling a $30 mug, which I might now be selling for $60 just to make up that difference.
That's not the only way tariffs are taking their toll. She's now having trouble getting the paints and glazes she typically uses for her creations.
There's one company in particular I can think of who's posted it on their website that says until the current administration is gone, they will not be selling to the United States.
For Shelby and Carla, what happens next is hard to say.
I was hoping to sell this business someday and make some money for retirement. So that doesn't happen when you're in debt already and going deeper into debt. So we're thinking of other things we can do.
And our thanks to Shalima Maharaj for that report. Retail giant Temu is fighting to win back American shoppers. CNBC's Silvana Hanal joins us now with that and other money news. Hey there, Silvana.
Hey, Emily, good morning to you. So Temu is planning an aggressive comeback to the U.S. market, trying to regain ground against rival Shein after months of turmoil due to President Trump's tariffs. And Bloomberg reports several of the best-selling products on the Chinese e-commerce platform. Those have seen prices drop by an average of 18% this month, with some seeing discounts as high as 60%. Now, Temu has also stopped charging buyers import fees and is stepping up advertising, urging sellers to cut prices in exchange for better traffic on the app. IKEA is looking at using space inside other retailer stores to reach more customers. So the Financial Times reports the world's largest furniture retailer plans to open IKEA kitchen planning studios in Best Buy stores in Florida and Texas later this year. And IKEA has overhauled its business model in recent years, shifting away from forcing people to drive to warehouses to pick up and build products themselves. It now offers online ordering as well as home delivery and assembly. And Amazon Music can now generate an AI playlist to match your vibe. So every Monday, the app will create a theme playlist, and it's based on what you've been listening to throughout the week. It will also suggest new and similar music, so you can find your weekly vibe playlist in the library by selecting Made for You. And you can also share your playlist with friends, post them on social media, and save them to your library to listen later, Emily.
Silvana, I feel like this is something I would utilize. I feel like every time I get in the car, it's like, okay, I can't remember any artist, I can't remember any song, so here's matching my vibe.
So here's one thing I will say about this. What I like, I mean, I've used it with another streaming service that gives you suggested. I have found new music with that, so I actually really like that too.
Yes, we need more of this, more of this. Thanks so much, Silvana. I appreciate you. All right, as kids get back into the classroom, many schools are looking for new ways to keep their cell phones out of the classroom. Some states like New York are allocating millions of taxpayer dollars to support smartphone restrictions in schools. And one company who is helping lead the charge is selling magnetic pouches to lock up phones on campus. NBC News daily anchor and chief consumer investigative correspondent Vicki Nguyen investigates whether they're worth the investment.
At the Sutter Middle School Talent Show in Folsom, California, you won't see a phone anywhere. The performance is to be recorded in students' memories, not their devices. In 2023, after district leaders decided to make their campuses phone-free, Principal Tariq McFall noticed immediate changes.
It's just a no-brainer for their social, emotional, and their mental health, and being able to come to school and not have to worry about what someone else is doing with their cell phone.
Teachers loved it too.
We would see kids at lunchtime and they would just sit there on their phones. Kids were no longer socializing with each other.
They started with Yonder pouches. The fabric bags are designed to lock away the phone, then get unlocked with these devices at the end of the school day. But students say the pouches can't be opened.
Most people just didn't put their phone into the Yonder bag at all. And I don't know, they would bang it against walls. I know one girl who she cut it.
After a year, Sutter decided to hang up on the pouches, but they didn't give up on the phone-free campus. Now the policy is to keep phones off and away.
Why did you abandon the pouches? It turned into an extra step that we didn't find necessary. When a student comes to campus, I don't want to see your cell phone.
But the Yonder pouches are now in schools in all 50 states. CEO Graham Dugoni says 2 million students now use them, many of them in public schools paid for with taxpayer dollars.
What is the value of all the contracts you have with public schools alone?
Oh, I couldn't say off the top of my head. I can just say it's growing every day.
Tens of millions of dollars.
Oh, I don't know the number off the top of my head.
Dugoni says it costs about $30 per student for the pouches, training, and support to start up the program. At 2 million students, that's about $60 million. Yonder declined to disclose the value of its public school contracts, but an NBC News analysis of the 10 largest school districts in the country found at least 6 have purchased the pouches. Los Angeles spending $5 million in the 2023-24 school year. Houston allocating $800,000 for the program. Chicago spending $289,000 since 2023. New York City, the largest district in the country, did not respond to NBC News' public records request, but the state now has a bell-to-bell ban on phones in school. This year, the city giving $16 million to schools to implement that ban as they see fit.
I think everyone would agree with you that phone-free spaces, especially at school, make a lot of sense. Do we need to spend this kind of money on pouches to make it happen?
Well, I think it's an investment. Every district is different, every school is different. What we've learned how to do is get a community ready to go phone-free.
At the new Pathways Academy in New York City, Principal Lynn Turnbull says the pouches are working for her 160 middle schoolers.
They're talking, they're chatting, they're laughing.
What you're saying is taking away the cell phones in the classroom gives these kids back their childhood.
Yes.
Their ability to be young people and to learn and interact in person.
Yes, and to find themselves, to learn about themselves, to learn who they are.
Dayton, Ohio Public School Superintendent David Lawrence says he got calls from lawmakers and school leaders across the country after we featured his school on the Today Show last year.
I'm telling school leaders to keep moving forward with no phones.
They use inexpensive paper envelopes to secure phones during school hours for thousands of students. While it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, he says schools can go phone-free for free.
Can you have a cell phone-free campus without these expensive pouches?
Oh, absolutely.
Back at Sutter Middle School in California, while students say they didn't like going phone-free at first, they see the benefits firsthand.
You can just enjoy other things. You don't have to look at a screen. There's nothing better than just enjoying everything else.
Vicki Nguyen, NBC News.
We love to hear that. Coming up, a renowned military school making history once again. When we return, we'll introduce you to a new generation of Tuskegee pilots taking part in a new aviation program. Stay with us. You're watching Morning News Now. And finally this hour, a historic institution taking to the skies once again. Tuskegee University, which trained America's first black military pilots during World War II, is launching a new program allowing students to get their pilot's licenses while earning their degrees. NBC News correspondent Erin Gilchrist introduces us to the first female pilot who is soaring through the new program.
She's a new pilot flying with history under her wings.
Tuskegee traffic, I'm at 849 Lima.
Cambria Parker is the first woman pilot from Tuskegee University's new aviation science program.
Make sure the rotor moves left, make sure it moves right. There were Tuskegee women working, but not flying. So it feels pretty good to be doing the flying.
At the height of World War II, the U.S. Army Air Corps sent black cadets to the Tuskegee Institute for primary flight training.
I turned right and put up a stone wall of bullets.
They became the nation's first black military pilots, the Tuskegee Airmen.
Then we're checking the hinges as well. There's 6 here.
Cambria is among about 50 students in the program at Tuskegee and historic Moton Field, where the legacy of those first black fighter pilots was born. Now preparing students for private and commercial licenses, hoping to help the nation's pilot shortage.
It's exciting to actually be operating a 2,000-pound vehicle.
How tall are you?
I'm 5 foot even.
I mean, you are the master when you're in this cockpit, though, right?
Mm-hmm. When I'm in it, I feel like I'm 8 foot tall.
And when she climbs into that cockpit, you can see it. She is in the zone.
You are bigger than you, honestly. That's the biggest battle I had with myself while getting this license.
A mindset that's even allowed her to rise above her fear of heights. But when you're in the air, no fear.
Yeah.
No fear.
No fear.
A fearlessness familiar to these airfields, launching a new generation into history. Erin Gilchrist, NBC News, Tuskegee, Alabama.
All right, and that does it for this hour of Morning News Now, but the news continues right now. Good morning, I'm Emily Ikeda in for Joe in Savannah. Right now on Morning News Now, eye-opening bombshells shaking up Washington this morning in the case of Jeffrey Epstein and his relationship with President Trump. Democrats releasing a trove of new documents, including this lewd drawing and message not verified by NBC News, which appears to be a note sent by Mr. Trump to Epstein for his 50th birthday. The latest fallout as the White House denies the president wrote the note. Also this morning, the Trump administration ramping up immigration enforcement in Chicago, now naming its controversial crackdown Operation Midway Blitz, all as the Supreme Court hands the Trump administration a major legal victory on those sweeping ICE operations in L.A. Plus, Apple fans, get ready, because today is the day we're expecting to get our first look at the brand new iPhone 17. But how will it stack up to big competitors like Samsung and Google that are looking to take a bite out of the tech giant's sales as the industry navigates President Trump's tariffs? And later in the hour, it's the hot new real estate trend that's taking try before you buy to a whole other level. We're diving into the so-called home test drives and why some experts aren't exactly sold on the idea. We begin this hour with the Republican-led House Oversight Committee releasing new documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. Among the documents pertaining to the convicted sex offender is a so-called birthday book that includes this lewd letter you're seeing on your screen President Trump was alleged to have sent to Epstein for his birthday more than 2 decades ago. President Trump has denied having anything to do with the card. The White House on social media denies the letter and signature were written by the president. NBC News senior White House correspondent Garrett Haight has the latest.
President Trump filed a $10 billion lawsuit this summer claiming that the letter released yesterday did not exist and that the signature of the name Donald on it wasn't written by his hand. The White House still insists that signature isn't his and that the president's litigation will continue. But the letter, now seen in black and white for the first time, is once again raising questions about Mr. Trump's relationship with Epstein. This decades-old letter revealed publicly for the first time, reigniting the controversy surrounding President Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. The letter shows a drawing of the silhouette of a woman's bare torso, with typewritten text of an imagined conversation between Trump and Epstein. We have certain things in common, it reads in part, later adding, enigmas never age. And closing with, happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret. Beneath that, a scrawled signature, Donald. White House officials on social media denied the letter or the signature were authored by the president. Vice President J.D. Vance labeling its release, quote, another fake scandal to smear President Trump with lies. The letter, part of a birthday book compiled by Epstein's former girlfriend Ghislaine Maxwell for his 50th birthday in 2003, was among documents subpoenaed from Epstein's estate by the House Oversight Committee. Committee Democrats releasing it Monday afternoon.
The president now is walking into his own lie and cover-up.
When the letter's existence was first reported by the Wall Street Journal in July, President Trump repeatedly denied having anything to do with it.
Somebody could have written a letter and used my name, but that's happened a lot.
He sued the Journal, its publisher and owner, for defamation, claiming $10 billion in damages. The newspaper Monday referring back to an earlier statement, quote, we have full confidence in the rigor and accuracy of our reporting. The book also includes a handwritten note from former President Bill Clinton, his office not returning our requests for comment, although a spokesman has previously said Clinton, quote, knows nothing about Epstein's terrible crimes. Mr. Trump, who said during last year's campaign that he would release all of the government's files on Epstein, has lately turned to attacking efforts to force the release of those files.
So this is a Democrat hoax that never ends.
Angering many of his own supporters, as well as Epstein's survivors.
Listen to us. This is not a hoax. It's not going to go away.
As for what comes next, House members, mostly Democrats with some Republicans, are still pushing for a full release of the Epstein files from the Justice Department. But what we may see next may be Epstein's financial and bank records, which the chairman of the House Oversight Committee has said they are pursuing. And it comes as Congress is also expected to interview former U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, who signed off on that controversial 2008 non-prosecution deal with Epstein, later blasted as being overly favorable to him.
All right, Garrett, thanks so much. This morning, we're learning new details about a major policy change that's speeding up the pace of immigration raids as the Trump administration moves from targeted enforcement to aggressive street sweeps. Current and former officials at ICE and the Department of Homeland Security told NBC News they are no longer required to fill out extensive paperwork that was previously done for nearly every arrest these agencies made. The policy change comes as President Trump threatens to deploy his federal crackdown on crime and immigration to Democrat-led cities like Chicago and Boston. NBC News senior Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley is here with more on her exclusive reporting. Okay, Julia, so tell me about how this policy change impacts things across the board, the scope of it here.
Yeah, well, they were just asked to fill out basic information about who they would go arrest, to show it to their supervisor. It was not only to make sure they'd done their homework on who this person was, but to try to protect agents from any kind of liability or even threats. What if this person's armed when they get to the house? What if there are children there? What's their name, address, picture, immigration status, basic things on who they'd be targeting in an operation. It didn't mean that ICE couldn't also arrest other undocumented immigrants if they encountered them in the course of that operation, but at least it meant that they had done their homework on who they were going after in the first place. And we understand that over the course of this administration this year, they've done away with that policy. It's been discontinued across the field offices. And so what that means is that they're able to go out and do some of the sweeps that you've seen in Los Angeles and D.C. They are saying that they're doing targeted enforcement actions, but it's been really hard to get specificity on what that means. And of course, there have been lawsuits alleging that they're actually profiling people. This is adding to that complexity and adding to that conversation, understanding now they don't have to know a whole lot about who it is before they make an arrest.
So on the point of those sweeps, there's still so many outstanding questions, right? Here you've got President Trump, who's been threatening to send troops to Chicago to, he says, crack down on crime. But then the Illinois governor says he hasn't heard of any kind of communication there. So what's to make of these raids? Are they going to be happening?
Well, it looks like at least the National Guard piece is not something that's been put into motion yet. But what has been put into place is the ramping up of immigration enforcement officers. We understand that hundreds of officers across ICE, CBP, DEA, ATF, and others are going to Chicago, and they're building a new base, or they're building places on a naval base just north of Chicago where these people can live while they conduct these operations. But what it might be, Emily, is just that they're going to condense operations they would normally do, say, over 3 months in a 3-week time span. And they're targeting certain cities like Chicago, like Boston, really to try to confront Democratic mayors about their sanctuary city policies, try to urge them to do more cooperation, hand over more information about immigrants. And if that doesn't happen, that's a clash honestly this administration has been willing to have.
And I think it's worth noting yesterday the Supreme Court handed the Trump administration a pretty big victory. The high court blocked a federal judge's ruling that said immigration agents on patrol could not stop people purely because of their race or the language they are speaking. So what did we hear from the justices on this?
Well, it's a temporary hold. Basically, they're saying that this lower court that ruled that ICE could not conduct operations that way, they're saying that ruling does not hold anymore. They want to wait until this comes back up to them, until they can actually weigh in on the merits. This often happens with the Supreme Court, where they may disagree with the lower court ruling, but that's not the final word until they really get the oral arguments. But it was unusual for the Supreme Court to weigh in, and it was an emergency opinion. And they're saying that the plaintiffs in this case didn't have the right to sue the federal government about how they were enforcing policy. But we saw a sharp dissent. In fact, from the only Latina justice, Justice Sotomayor, she said that we should not live in a country where the government can seize anyone who looks Latino, speaks Spanish, and appears to work a low-wage job. Rather than stand idly by while our constitutional freedoms are lost, I dissent. That is a strong rebuke of this opinion. And she's basically saying they are opening the door for racial profiling, something the Supreme Court expressly banned in 1975.
Yeah, a lot of people watching this, a bit of a wait-and-see situation. So thanks so much, Julia, for bringing your exclusive reporting to us. Now to the Middle East, where Israel is telling people to get out of Gaza City ahead of even more Israeli airstrikes. The warning comes after 6 Israelis were killed in an alleged terror attack yesterday. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel joins us now from Jerusalem, where the attack took place. Richard, good morning.
Good morning. The warning is not just to get away because of Israeli airstrikes. The warning is because of a intensifying full ground offensive into Gaza City, which is the biggest city in Gaza, one of the only places in the entire Gaza Strip where tall buildings are remaining. And just today, the Israeli military issued a full, immediate evacuation order, telling people in Arabic, dropping leaflets to get out of the city now and to head south to a so-called safe zone. International aid agencies, humanitarian groups have warned that the consequences will be dire for the people of Gaza City, who are already facing starvation. And there have been some, I will say, relatively small protests here in Israel, with Israelis saying that the better way, far safer way to free the hostages still held by Hamas is through a ceasefire.
Israel this morning is dropping leaflets over Gaza City, ordering people in no uncertain terms that they must leave immediately, as the Israeli military rapidly moves ahead with a controversial offensive into the city, where hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are living. The Israeli Air Force has already been striking high-rise buildings in Gaza City. At least 50 so far. Israel claiming they are being used by Hamas and warning people to evacuate first. Prime Minister Netanyahu saying all of this is just a prelude, only the beginning to the main intensified operation, adding, I say to Gaza residents, take this opportunity and listen to me carefully. You have been warned. Leave. But where are people supposed to go? This Israeli map shows the near impossible choice Gazans are facing. The red areas are combat zones. If Palestinians stay in them, they could be killed. It's the vast majority of Gaza. The other areas are the so-called safe zones, which also at times have been attacked, and where Palestinians and international human rights groups say there is not nearly enough food, water, or shelter. 12-year-old Jana Mansour was picking through the rubble of her tent, crushed when Israel leveled a nearby building. She says she used to have beautiful dresses, but that now she feels like walking garbage. Nothing is left in life. We are finished, she says. Israelis are suffering too. 6 Israelis were killed and 5 remain seriously wounded after yesterday's mass shooting in Jerusalem, when 2 Palestinian gunmen opened fire at a bus stop. The attackers shot dead by a soldier and an armed civilian. Shortly after the attack, Israeli troops began raids in the West Bank, searching for accomplices. Israeli officials are promising to revoke work permits and destroy buildings in the villages where the gunmen came from.
President Trump is pushing for a ceasefire deal in Gaza, and both the Israeli government and Hamas say they are open to a deal. But the terms of the deal are unclear, and at this stage, there is no indication of any breakthrough.
Richard, some harrowing scenes there. Thanks so much. Now to new details this morning on the Murdoch family's battle for long-term control of Rupert Murdoch's multi-billion-dollar media empire. According to a family agreement, Murdoch's eldest son, Lachlan, is set to remain in control until at least 2050, with his 3 siblings being bought out. NBC News correspondent Liz Croyce has the latest on this dispute. A long time coming, Liz.
Hi, Emily. Yeah, this agreement ends a bitter court battle over the future of many influential publications, including prominent newspapers like the Wall Street Journal and New York Post, and of course, Fox News. And it ends any speculation that the company might alter its conservative course after the eventual death of 94-year-old Rupert Murdoch.
This morning, a major plot twist in a real-life succession battle. The Murdoch family establishing a new trust that leaves Rupert Murdoch's oldest son, Lachlan, firmly in control of the family business. The hope, with one clear successor, there won't be a messy outcome like the one that played out on HBO's fictional version.
I love you, but you are not serious people.
In exchange for the agreement, 3 of Lachlan's siblings will receive huge payouts for their shares and will step away from their roles at both News Corp and Fox.
When you talk to investors, when you talk to current and former executives, all of them have been obsessed with this question of what is going to happen to the empire when the king is dead, right? That question has now been answered.
In a statement, News Corp's board of directors says it welcomes these developments. It all comes after a messy legal battle over the family's original irrevocable trust, which gave Murdoch's 4 children from his first and second marriages equal financial shares and votes in the company. While Murdoch and Lachlan lost in court, they kept pushing for a deal. Now Prudence, Elizabeth, and James will walk away from the family business with a reported $1.1 billion apiece.
Why shouldn't we do all the news?
Well, Kim Jong-pop, because that's not how things work in this country.
Like on the fictional Succession, the political viewpoints of Rupert Murdoch's children aren't all in alignment.
Profit without purpose is a recipe for disaster.
Now 94, the family patriarch ensuring that his multi-billion-dollar media empire will stay the course for decades to come.
What Rupert cares about most is preserving his legacy as this kind of creator of a conservative media empire, and he believes Lachlan is the one who can safeguard that legacy.
Now, the new trust also includes non-voting shares for Murdoch's two youngest children from his third wife, Wendy Dang. And as for Rupert Murdoch himself, the company says he will continue in his role as chairman emeritus of both News Corporation and of Fox. Emily.
All right, Liz, thanks so much for that. Okay, so if you're in the market for a new phone, this story is for you. This morning, we're expecting to get our first official look at the latest iPhone model. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung is in San Francisco with all the details on the iPhone 17. Brian, I think I'm a few models behind, to say the least. Good morning.
Good morning. I hope it doesn't still have a home button, Emily. If that's the case, we'll have to get you upgraded. But look, the iPhone 17 is expected to be announced by Apple here in the Bay Area later today. And if the rumors are true, it could be a thinner iPhone. This as well as expectations for perhaps a new AirPods Pro, as well as new Apple Watches. But the question here is, with other types of phones now folding and flipping, is the competition taking a bite out of Apple?
It's a vibe that could do demonstrate light.
Get ready for a brand new iPhone, with Apple expected to announce a range of new iPhone 17s today. Rumored to lead the lineup, an all-new slimmer option called the iPhone 17 Air.
Are we still getting excited for that? Because I haven't seen any talk about it.
Apple hoping that the 17s can excite a consumer that's felt underwhelmed by features in recent upgrades.
Apple is super boring. They come out the same phone every single year.
Which has largely looked the same since the full-screened iPhone 10 came out about 8 years ago. Meaning those days of massive frenzies over launch day are long gone.
People are not lining up at stores because they have to get that brand new phone. But they do order them, and there are big order numbers that happen this fall because people have been upgrading.
Although Apple still dominates the U.S. smartphone market, new numbers show Korean competitor Samsung gaining share, now accounting for 31% of all smartphone shipments, up from 23%.
Y'all mind your own business when you see me texting and the bubble is green.
Experts say Apple's latest bet to keep its hold on the market, the new iPhone 17s, will likely have a similar price tag, after CEO Tim Cook's negotiating to keep added tariff costs down.
If it was way more expensive, that would have consumers really looking at the lower cost competition from Google and Android phones.
It comes as those competitors show off flashy phones that flip and fold.
Same old phone?
Nah.
While boasting bolder AI features that Apple has yet to bring to the iPhone.
Gemini, show me the concealer.
The long, thin tube in the middle.
Yes.
Experts say today's announcement will shy away from Apple's AI play called Apple Intelligence. And it could still be another year or two before Apple tries a more radical form factor on its flagship phones.
The reports point to Apple being pretty far along now with the foldable phone, either next year in 2026 or 27.
So no foldable iPhones just yet. You might have to wait a little bit longer. But I know a lot of questions over that iPhone 17 Air. If the rumors are true, that could be a thinner phone, which does come with some compromises, Emily. That means it could have fewer cameras as well as a smaller battery pack. So it just depends on how long you need your phone. But again, could be a little bit more pocketable than maybe some of those thicker iPhones that we've got right now.
Listen, Brian, I am patiently waiting for the flip phone to return because nothing is more satisfying to like hang up and you go... Yeah, so
I want the antenna to come back. Yeah. You know, where like you got to pop that thing in and out. Why not?
With the little charms, yeah. Maybe a little boo-boo charm. Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Thanks, Brian, so much. All right, it's starting to feel like fall out there with temperatures dropping across the country. We've got more now with your Morning News Now weather. Meteorologist Angie Lassman joins us. Good morning, Angie. A little chilly when I stepped outside this morning.
A little chilly indeed. Emily, you and a lot of other folks across the Northeast needed to grab that extra layer this morning before we head out. Now, the frost advisories have expired, but we're still dealing with temperatures in the 30s, 40s, and 50s across much of this region. Notice up into portions of Maine, we've got 40s. We've got Manchester sitting at 51 degrees. And near the lakes, we've got low 50s to upper 40s. So that kind of sets the stage for where we go for the afternoon hours across that region. It'll be fairly mild or on the cool side. If we look to the middle of the country, though, that's where our temperatures are really warming up. We've got high 80s, some summer-like conditions expected in places like Denver and Salt Lake City, 90 degrees in Albuquerque, no cool air in place for our friends in Phoenix, where you're expected to hit 105 today. Different story up and down the West Coast. Last week, we had this kind of real prolonged heat wave for for folks across the Pacific Northwest, we finally moderated out, and we're talking mid-70s for Portland, upper 70s for Sacramento and Los Angeles. Those temperatures a little below normal for where we should be. Moving to the east here as we get into tomorrow, some more of that warmth kind of settles into parts of the plains and the Midwest, and we've got 90s on tap for places like St. Louis and Memphis. Not the same across parts of the Mid-Atlantic, where Washington, D.C. and Raleigh will end up below normal and just top out into the 70s. Once we get into the end of the work week, though, and into the weekend, some spots are going to feel a little warm for September. Notice Chicago into the mid-80s. We've got 90s for Kansas City. We've got upper 80s for Friday and Saturday in Lexington. And even New York City rounding out the work week into the high 70s to low 80s. So kind of this roller coaster ride of our temperatures, not quite settling into fall just yet, but we've got some cool air and some warm air across the country. Now, we've also got some showers and thunderstorms that we're tracking, and quite an active morning across the Sunshine State today, and that kind of sets the stage for what we deal with the next couple of days. We've got a cold front that's going to hang out not just today, but tomorrow too. The risk for severe weather, so those stronger storms, is on the low end. Doesn't mean that we won't see some gusty winds along with these thunderstorms, and most importantly, some interruption to those outdoor plans. You'll also notice that we'll likely see some localized flooding. We've got some impressive rainfall rates that we could see 1 to 2 inches per hour. It does not take much for this region to flood, so we will be watching for that concern here as you get out the door, not just today, but through the day today and into tomorrow, and potentially even Thursday. We'll still see some rain hanging around, so we'll watch for the flooding concern. Anywhere from 1 inch to 3 inches will be expected by the time we round out our work week. 'Tis the season for rain across that region, and that's where it's going to remain unsettled, unfortunately, for anyone that has those outdoor.
I mean, 2 inches of rain an hour, you definitely got to be careful of that flash flooding situation
exactly.
down there. All right, Angie, thank you so much. Much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now. A little later, why test driving homes is quickly becoming the hottest new trend in real estate. But first, after the break, Prince Harry's royal return to Britain and the questions now swirling over whether a visit to his father, King Charles, could be on the agenda. Those stories and more next. We're back with Prince Harry's return to Britain. Today, he will be in Nottingham to take part in a string of charity events. He arrived yesterday amid a flurry of speculation about whether he will meet with his father, King Charles. But so far, there are no signs of that happening. Prince Harry's visit also comes as Princess Kate marks 1 year since completing her cancer treatment. NBC News international correspondent Molly Hunter joins us now from London with more. Molly, I will never get over that backdrop. It's just beautiful.
Not bad for an office today, Emily, but that's right. The speculation still being fueled over here. We are looking at their schedules, trying to figure out if there are any windows that match up. But we are seeing Prince Harry at these events you mentioned last night, today, working the crowds, doing what he loves. And you also mentioned this quieter anniversary that Kate, Princess of Wales, is marking. Take a look.
This morning, Prince Harry back in Britain, working the crowds and spending time with causes close to his heart, including the Well Child Awards, an organization he's been involved with for nearly 2 decades.
Thank you for showing us the light when all too often darkness can consume us.
Harry even finding time for a little balloon sword fight. Today, he's off to Nottingham for another event, and there are no signs of any imminent meetings with either his father, King Charles, or big brother, Prince William. The future king and queen out and about yesterday, marking the 3rd anniversary of Queen Elizabeth's passing. William caught chatting about his 3 kids when asked about little Louis.
He's very good. He likes to
The cancer journey is complex, scary, and unpredictable for everyone.
Today, another quieter anniversary. A year ago, Kate, the Princess of Wales, making a more personal announcement.
As the summer comes to an end, I cannot tell you what a relief it is to have finally completed my chemotherapy treatment.
As the Princess of Wales returns to public life, the most popular royal has been getting back to work at her own pace.
She's preparing to move into Forest Lodge at Windsor. It's a new family home for them and will give them a fresh start after what has been a very challenging 18 months.
Over the summer, Kate attending some of her favorite events, bringing Prince George and Princess Charlotte to the Wimbledon finals, alongside William greeting the French president during a lavish state visit. and on her own, keeping the focus on her early childhood education work.
Kate has an absolute passion for early years development, and I'm told she's going to be doing a lot more around that in the coming months.
Now, looking at the brothers' schedules yesterday, Emily, their events were actually geographically pretty close to each other in the Greater London area. For the rest of the week, their engagements take them to other parts of the UK. But our fingers are crossed that maybe there's a little bit of time for a royal reconciliation. We will keep you posted, Emily.
A reconciliation that would be seen around the world. Thanks so much, Molly. So for more on this, let's go to Vanity Fair's royal correspondent, Katie Nichol. Katie, good morning to you. So Prince Harry is back on home soil this week, but as we heard, there's no sign of a reunion with either King Charles or Prince William. We saw the two princes attending separate events yesterday. So is there any way back for Harry?
Listen, I am ever the optimist, so I'm going to say yes. I think there is absolutely a way back for Prince Harry. Certainly not when it comes to official royal duties. I think those days have long gone. In terms of a reconciliation, I think we're all very much hoping that this is an opportunity, because this is the first time that Prince Harry has been in this country for 4 days. He hasn't seen his father since last February, when he jetted over unexpectedly to come and see the King after the King's cancer diagnosis. Now, we do know that the King's diary is pretty clear this week, and I can tell you that the King does come to London weekly for his ongoing cancer treatment. Now, Harry is in Nottingham today. He's got an engagement up there, but he's in London tomorrow. I think that means that there is an opportunity here for a meeting. Last time round, they had a mere half an hour with each other. But don't forget, just a few weeks ago, the King's head of press and Harry's head of press were photographed talking together, and that really caused headlines around the world for the very obvious reasons that it signalled perhaps something of a bit of an icebreaker here between the King and his estranged youngest son.
Okay, so a lot of eyes on tomorrow. Well, as Molly mentioned, Prince Harry's visit comes as Princess Kate marks 1 year since she completed her cancer treatment. What more do we know about how she's been managing since getting back to her public duties?
Well, I think it's very much been on her own terms. And as yesterday was a case in point, when Kate joined William unexpectedly at the Women's Institute in Berkshire to mark the Queen's 3rd anniversary of her death. You know, sometimes we get these engagements announced at the last minute. Sometimes she pulls out of something at the last minute, as she did at Royal Ascot. Unusual, admittedly, for royal events, but not given her circumstances. What we do know is that she is now in remission. She's completed her course of chemotherapy, and she's doing incredibly well. As Emily said in your package earlier, she's going to be really focusing on the early years campaign moving forwards. But I think everything I hear is it's very much about balance. Her priority, first and foremost, is her health, staying well, staying cancer-free, of course, her 3 young children, and her duties as the Princess of Wales. But it's very much in that order. Family and health are absolutely paramount. But she's back to work, and she looks happier than ever, whether that's blonde, brunette, or somewhere in between.
Good note there. Just going back to Prince Harry for a moment. He has been in Nottingham, where he's announcing a donation to a project for the charity Children in Need. So how important is the UK to Harry now? Where does it fall in his priorities?
Well, do you know, I think it is important, and I think it does fall into his priorities. He is a prince, you know. He was born here. He's got royal DNA coursing through his veins. He loves his country. I mean, we last saw him in this country because he was going through a high court battle to try and get round-the-clock police protection so that he felt safe bringing his family over here. I suspect if he had the chance to bring Meghan and the children over here on this visit, he would have loved to. That security issue is a big thing. But clearly, this 4-day trip is something of a breakthrough. And you know what? I reflect on it and see him, whether it's in Nottingham, where he's presenting a big check to Children in Need, or at last night's Well Child Award. It reminds me of the old Harry, fun-loving, really enjoying what he does and putting philanthropy first and foremost. That's what he's brilliant at. That's what we love Harry for doing. And it's been lovely to see him back over here in Britain.
Yeah, the balloon sword fights, hanging out with the kids. Katie Nichol, with all of your expertise, thanks so much.
Thank you.
New this morning, Nepal's prime minister has resigned following days of deadly protests over a social media ban and allegations of corruption. Matt Bodner joins us now with that and more world news in 60 seconds. Hey there, Matt.
Emily, good morning. Last week, Nepal's government ordered a ban on 26 social media companies for failing to register with the country's communication ministry. The ban sparked anti-corruption protests and clashes with police that left at least 19 people dead. Following an emergency government meeting last night, the ban has been lifted to, quote, address the demands of Gen Z. And today, the prime minister has resigned. Moving along now to right here in London, World-famous street artist Banksy has unveiled a new work painted right on the walls of the Royal Courts of Justice. Shortly after it was discovered, authorities said it would be removed. The mural features a judge appearing to beat a protester who's lying on the ground with a gavel. Red paint on the protester's sign would appear to depict blood. And we'll wrap up this hour in Albania. Archaeologists have uncovered a large Roman burial chamber. It dates back to sometime between the 3rd and 4th century AD. It's actually the first of its kind found in Albania. The discovery came after locals noticed some strange stones on a plateau near the North Macedonian border. Excavation began early last month. Back to you.
Well, quite the time capsule there. Matt Bodner, thank you so much. Coming up, a violent smash and grab robbery caught on camera. After the break, more on the California jewelry heist that left an 88-year-old business owner hospitalized and traumatized, with the thieves still at large. Stay with us. And we're back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with Republicans preparing to take drastic measures in order to make rule changes in the Senate. NBC News senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor joins us with more. Sahil, good morning.
Happy Tuesday morning, Emily. We begin the day in politics with Republican leaders taking steps to trigger the nuclear option to change Senate rules. The purpose? To speed up confirmation of President Trump's nominees by processing them in batches, potentially dozens or more at a time, rather than individually. Republican leaders say their hand is being forced by unprecedented Democratic obstruction to slow them down. But Democrats argue that Trump is putting unqualified lackeys in powerful positions, meriting historic scrutiny. The Majority Leader John Thune took the first step in the process Monday with a block of 48 nominees, although changing the rules and confirming them could take until next week. The top Democrat, Chuck Schumer, said he was negotiating a deal to avoid all this until President Trump stepped in and told him to, quote, go to hell, end quote. Also here in Washington, the president announced that the Department of Education will roll out new guidance protecting the right to prayer in public schools, fulfilling a longstanding goal of the Christian right. Trump argues that there are threats to religious liberty in public schools, but his move could wade into the choppy legal waters of the First Amendment's separation of church and state, with advocates noting that students already have a right to pray in public schools. And in the battle for control of the U.S. Senate, there's a new candidate in the closely watched Texas Senate race, with State Representative James Tallarico jumping into the Democratic primary. The 36-year-old Tallarico offers himself as a unifier and a fighter. He was one of the leading voices against the Texas GOP's redistricting move this summer, and he also attracted attention with a recent appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast. He will face former two-term Congressman Colin Allred in the primary. Tallarico told NBC News he brings something fresh and different for an electorate that is looking for a reset in the Democratic Party. And that is a look at what's making news in politics this morning. Emily?
Sahil, podcasting playing a bigger role than ever in politics. Thanks so much for that. And now to a violent robbery in San Jose, California. Security video shows the suspects ramming an SUV through the front of a jewelry store, then rushing in, throwing the 88-year-old owner to the ground and making off with handfuls of merchandise. NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky has the latest.
San Jose police searching for the more than 15 men caught on this surveillance video, violently robbing an 88-year-old man and his jewelry store. Watch as this gray SUV pulls up in broad daylight, then speeds in reverse, smashing right through the glass storefront. Within seconds, 3 more cars pull up, and the suspects rush inside Kim Hung Jewelry. Police say at least one of them had a firearm. Once inside, the suspects, disguised in hoodies, masks, and gloves, are seen smashing the displays, grabbing merchandise, and pushing the elderly store owner to the ground, stepping over his body as they grab even more. His niece finding him outside the store minutes later with open wounds from shattered glass.
Oh my God, it's all blood. It's all blood.
He was taken to a hospital where doctors said he had suffered a stroke. His son, also inside the store, was not injured. San Jose police say the suspects fled in multiple vehicles before they got to the scene, and they have yet to identify anyone in these videos.
This has become a regular occurrence.
Community leaders standing in solidarity with the family, calling for a crackdown on smash and grab offenders.
This is very scary for every small business that own a shop. And for a lot of them, this is their livelihood.
asking Governor Gavin Newsom to fund enforcement of Prop 36, a California law that allows felony charges and increases sentences for certain drug and theft crimes, particularly for repeat offenders, something advocates say that would help small businesses like this one.
It's becoming a huge problem. It's a crime wave that's happening everywhere. We need to get that Prop 36 funding that the governor was supposed to do, and we need to have it quick.
The family estimating the thieves caused at least $100,000 in damages alone. A smash and grab devastating a family business they say the owner may never return to.
Don't think he's coming back. Absolutely no.
Our thanks to Morgan Chesky for that. Coming up, you've probably test-driven a car before, but have you test-driven a house? After the break, why some realtors are actually pushing back against the latest trend in home buying that has prospective residents staying the night before sealing the deal. That's next on Morning News Now. All right, we're back now with a new spin on the try before you buy approach. More prospective home buyers are asking to spend a predetermined amount of time, usually overnight, at a house they like before making an offer. While most home buyers like the idea, it's getting mixed reviews among real estate experts. For more on this, let's bring in Jessica Flint. She's a reporter for the Wall Street Journal who recently covered this trend. Jessica, this is so interesting because on one hand, you've got people who are saying this is a brilliant idea. On the other, people are raising concerns about liability. Walk me through the details of how it all works.
Yeah, so this is a try before you buy concept. The idea is that this is kind of like real estate's version of taking a car for a test drive. Homes are a really big investment, and buyers want to know that they feel comfortable in the house before they make an offer. So they're just throwing it out there. They're saying, can I stay overnight in your house? And sellers are saying yes. And on the flip side, some very motivated sellers are actually offering this and even marketing it to buyers as a tool to be able to try to sell their house.
Just how common are these so-called home test drives, and what are some of the benefits for these prospective buyers?
It's not the most common thing. Still, it's kind of an emerging trend. It's happening here and there, but it really is happening across every price point in every market across the country.
Yeah, I want to build on that because a lot of the homes that you feature, we're talking multi-million-dollar homes, but how realistic is it for various price points?
Yeah, there's a great example of a woman in Texas. Her house was $500,000. She was having a garage sale. A prospective buyer came to the garage sale and said, hey, I would be interested in this house. And the seller just on the spot said, why don't you just stay and give it a try? So it kind of depends. It is no one size fits all solution. It kind of depends on, is the house staged? Is there furniture? Is there not? Will someone bring an air mattress? Do they want to bring linens? It's case by case.
Do they need to bring toilet paper? That was one of the instances I read in your story. So what are some of the risks buyers and sellers should both be aware of? Because I know there are concerns around liability before negotiating a home test drive. Some people even getting insurance for their night or month stay.
Yeah, so the primary risk. So for the seller, really the primary risk is inviting a stranger into your home. It's crucial to have the legal waivers in place, the right insurance, even if it's an overnight policy, just to protect your property and yourself. And the other risk for the seller is it does take your house off the market for a short period of time, which could be a risk if another offer comes in and it does accrue kind of the days on market. For the buyer, it generally is a little bit lower risk. It's just being respectful of a property owner's property.
What a fascinating trend. Jessica Flint, thanks for joining me this morning. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, more financial headlines this morning. Mortgage rates are taking a dip, hitting their lowest level in nearly a year. CNBC's Silvana Hanal joins us now with that and other money news. Hey there, Silvana.
Hey, Emily, good morning. Yes, so mortgage rates not taking a big decline. Mortgage News Daily says the average rate on a 30-year fixed loan saw its biggest one-day drop in more than a year. That was on Friday. Now, rates are currently at 6.28%. That is at the lowest level since October. The move coming on the back of the weaker than expected jobs report on Friday, raising the odds the Federal Reserve cuts interest rates next week. Now, a rate cut would potentially lead to lower borrowing costs on all types of loans, including mortgages. The federal government has already collected tens of billions of dollars in revenue from President Trump's tariffs on U.S. trading partners, but that money could end up having to be refunded if The Supreme Court agrees with lower court rulings. The president's authority to impose those tariffs is illegal. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent warning in a declaration filed with the court that amount could be as high as $1 trillion. It includes the tariffs already collected and money projected to be collected through next June. And Google admitting the open web is in rapid decline. The company making that statement in a court filing last week ahead of a trial over its alleged monopoly in the ad tech business. So the Justice Department is seeking a breakup, but Google argues that's not ideal because it would harm publishers who rely on open web display and web display ad revenue, Emily.
Silvana, something tells me this won't be the last we hear on that dispute.
Not.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
The internet is buzzing this morning about actor Channing Tatum and his extreme weight loss. He dropped more than 50 pounds for his latest movie role. Body transformations for a performance isn't a new trend, but now it comes in the context of social media. One expert told NBC's Chloe Malas that the hyper-focused attention could change young people's perception on what a healthy body looks like.
And right here. Actor Channing Tatum back in the headlines, this time not for his relationship status, but for his dramatic weight loss for an upcoming role in Roofman.
That was good seeing things.
The Magic Mike star lost nearly 70 pounds to play Jeffrey Manchester, a real-life criminal who escaped prison in 2004 and hid in Toys R Us stores for 6 months.
Jeff is a really thin guy.
A new interview with Tatum about the transformation has the internet talking.
I had only planned to get down to like 185, and then it just, once I was already going, it just, the days of shooting it kept coming off, and I got down to like 172.
The actor sharing a series of photos on Instagram this spring, revealing he started at 235 pounds due to a different role. The director saying Tatum's weight loss even alarmed some of the film's staff.
Assistant director Mariella, she was concerned.
She was just like, that's it.
That's enough weight.
She's like, get him a steak right now. And I was like, I think you're right. I'm like, this is weird. And I don't know why. It was a sort of an emptiness and like a sadness to it.
And after bulking up for another role, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson turning heads with his new figure at the Venice Film Festival last week. Even Joe Rogan weighing in.
He lost a lot of weight. Have you seen him now? He's slimmed down.
The two are not the first Hollywood stars to undergo extreme changes for a role.
Never should have gotten on that plane.
Take Tom Hanks in Castaway in 2000.
A man was nearly killed thanks to
Or Christian Bale's emaciated look in 2004 for The Machinist, before bulking back up for Batman Begins. But those were in a different era, before social media. This TikToker taking issue with Tatum, calling 235 pounds a fat roll.
But the fact that you call this a fat roll, I wish I was fat like this instead of fat like this.
With social media now, what has changed? Social media has really magnified this problem, and it has made it an everybody's issue.
Eating disorders are seemingly on the rise for boys and young men after the pandemic, something the Today Show recently covered.
I lost over 120 pounds in less than 6 months.
Experts point to the prevalence of accounts with heavily edited bodies, promoting dieting and even celebrating eating disorders as a big problem.
Pre-COVID, when I would work inpatient, it would be for every 10 girls, there would be a boy. Now it's for every 5 girls, there's a boy.
Tatum, who is now back to an in-between weight, thanked his chef/nutritionist/witch and his trainer, acknowledging the swings were, quote, hard on the body.
For the rest of us who don't necessarily spend all of our time on television, we have to start asking ourselves, is it worth some of these risks to achieve these beauty standards?
Tatum has even addressed unrealistic expectations before, discussing his fitness for Magic Mike 3.
That's not even healthy. You have to starve yourself.
Oh my God. Proving that what looks healthy on social media may not be healthy in real life. Chloe Malas, NBC News.
Coming up, we are counting down the days to the 2026 Winter Paralympic Games in Milano Cortina. And when Morning News Now returns, we're chatting with one of America's hometown heroes, 2-time sled hockey gold medalist Jack Wallace. You see him there on his journey to another gold in just a few short months. Stay with us. That's up next. And finally this hour, we are just 6 months away from the start of the 2026 Winter Paralympic Games in Milano Cortina. As if competing on the international stage wasn't exciting enough, it will also mark the 50th anniversary of the very first Paralympic Winter Games. And for the second time in history, Italy will host some of the world's best para-athletes going for gold across 6 sports. And one of those athletes is Jack Wallace. He is a 2-time gold medalist in sled hockey. We are lucky to have him here with us. We are talking, for people who aren't familiar with sled hockey, about an elite team of athletes. This would be a 5th, you're going for gold, the team's going for gold for a 5th time in a row. You've already brought home and been a part of that team for 2 gold medals. Where's your mindset at ahead of these games?
Yeah, I think we're just excited to carry on the legacy that this team has built. I mean, all the great athletes that have come before us in the prior games and built this program to where it is now. So, I mean, we're just ready to get after it and carry on that legacy. I
had the absolute privilege of covering the Paralympics in Paris for the Summer Games, and all the athletes I talked to, Ezra Freck, Ali Truitt, Roderick Townsend, everyone talked about just the energy around the games, record viewership across platforms. Are you hoping that momentum continues into the Winter Games?
Yeah, absolutely. Paris was a massive success for the not just the Olympic movement, but the Paralympic movement as well. It brought so much notoriety to so many different para-athletes across the world, not just the U.S. athletes. So we're really hoping to continue with that momentum and keep bringing the Paralympic Games to new viewers, and so they can see what the Paralympic Games are all about.
So what do you want people to know about sled hockey?
I mean, sled hockey is fast, it's intense, it's physical. It's, you know, if you're a hockey fan, you're going to be a fan of sled hockey. There's no way that you're going to be able to watch any NHL game and then turn on a sled hockey game and turn it off.
I know you're a multi-sport athlete, versatile to say the least. You also compete in para-canoe. But you've been playing sports throughout your entire life, though you did have to change your trajectory a bit and shift your perspective when you were 10 because you were pretty badly injured in a boating accident, but you got some unique advice from your mom. Tell me about that and how it still inspires you to this day.
Yeah, I think my family instilled some really good values in me throughout my whole life, but obviously in those crucial moments in the months following my accident, they made it very apparent that it's okay to feel all these emotions we're feeling right now. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to, we're going to deal with this however you want to. But in the next few days, next few weeks, whatever it is, you have to start looking forward. We can't dwell on the past. And that attitude has stuck with me the whole life, especially my whole life, especially after just missing out on Paris. Dwell on it for a few days, maybe. You're allowed to be sad, but hey, what's next? What are we doing next? Let's figure it out.
And now your sights are set on Italy. How exciting is that? So you're a multi-sport athlete, but one of the new challenges you're facing is today. You're in town for throwing out the first pitch. How are you feeling? There's a lot of eyes on that.
Yeah, I've seen, unfortunately, my feed has been showing me a lot of messed up first pitches lately.
The algorithm.
Yeah, so I actually had a catch with a friend the other day just to make sure I remembered how to throw a baseball. I haven't thrown a baseball in a couple of years, but yeah, I was able to put it in his mitt a few times. So yeah, really looking forward to it. It's a dream come true.
I want you to give your elevator pitch to people. Why should they watch the Winter Games? Why should they watch Paralympics? Why should they become fans of sled hockey?
I mean, like I said before, sled hockey is fast, it's physical. A lot of people don't know that you're allowed to hit in sled hockey. You are absolutely allowed to hit. I mean, the Winter Paralympics are so amazing. It's such a rare opportunity, and it only comes around every 4 years. People seem to kind of forget about it, especially with how big the Summer Games was. With Milan coming back, it's going to be this massive event, and you won't want to miss it.
What does training look like in these final months preparing for this big moment?
So in 2 days, we actually have our official team tryout. And then we have 2 World Cups this fall and winter. And then starting in January, we have a team residency where the whole team will move in together and live together for the 3 months leading up to the games. So we get to know each other really well, but we're on the ice every day together. We're in the weight room every day together. We're cooking meals together, building that chemistry, that camaraderie. So when we get to Milan, we're ready to go.
You know what I love about the Paralympics is you've got this physicality, this extreme talent, but you also have these stories of inspiration. I know you're a motivational speaker. What is one of your key messages to people?
I mean, my key message, as simple as it sounds, is you get out what you put in, right? You can have these dreams, you can have these aspirations, but you have to put in the work to get there.
Jack Wallace, thank you so much for being here. We will all be tuning in, and we are just 6 months away from the Winter Paralympics in March 2026, where you can watch Team USA go for gold on NBC and Peacock. That does it for this hour of Morning News Now. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.